Fill it.
I drink your milkshake.
You are listening to the Billionaire Podcast Network.
Moving my bones, no place to rest. Traveled up north just to find my head. I'm still cornfed. Cornfed. Moving my bones, no place to rest. Traveled up north just to find my head. I'm still cornfed.
Oh, hey. Welcome to Lost in the Maze number 15.3. I'm going to number this one Kingdom Hearts style. 15.3 over 97 to 7/8 and 4/4. 2 shillings and a halfpenny. Dreaming to dream. Whatever. Yeah, whatever. This is Lost in the Maze 15.3. Only on the Billionaire Podcast Network. Ka-ching, bing, 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 did filler up, a subsidiary of Cornfed Industries. Folks, it's me, Dalton Pruitt. I just got done recording the Lost in the Maze 15. For those who have listened or maybe tried to listen and didn't get it, whatever. That was me reading verses 1 through 950 of the J.R.R. Tolkien translation of Beowulf. It's been a while since I've read Beowulf, and I've had this Tolkien translation for a while, and I've never actually read it. I read Beowulf in college. I took it was like an old English literature class, but it was, I never really understood what we were doing because we were all drunk on old English. No, I remember reading it in that class and just having this like, I don't know if there's a name for it. I've seen people talk about this on the internet when you've lived you've lived your life, and the things you've consumed, books, movies, music, all of it have like references to something. There's like this original work that has been referenced over and over and over again, to the point where, if you're a certain age, like you might see the references to that many times before you actually get around to like seeing the original thing. And so when I read Beowulf, I had this like moment of like realization that so much of just everything that exists in terms of like literature and movies and music, especially like fantasy stuff, but I mean just especially like just anything involving like a sort of hero's journey type story. So much of that can be traced back to Beowulf and maybe other stories at that time or before that, but Beowulf is like one of the original works. And it's interesting. I remember at the time reading it in that class and seeing all these different tropes of storytelling that I had like grown up with, and that was like my frame of reference for storytelling, seeing them in this story and having to like remind myself that in this story as it was written, none of this is trite. Like none of this is cliched yet or well-worn territory. This is like the original story from which so many things like derive their like method of storytelling, like the structure and just the beats of like what the story is. And it was a really fun, interesting experience to read it um in college. I mean, you can read it whenever you want. You don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a college class. It's actually free. The story's free. Like I have this copy that I forget how much I paid for. But if you go to like I think it's like the Gutenberg.org, the whole thing is free. Um and I'm trying to figure out how to like articulate. I'm sure like y'all know what I'm talking about, where like you see so many things in movies and TV and whatever that are all like inspired by or referencing something, and it becomes so like trodden over, like whatever this reference is, that by the time you actually see the original, it's hard to even comprehend that no one had done this up until then, because it's such like ingrained in our minds and in culture, the thing that this thing did, you know. And I'm trying to think of like trying to think of a good example, because like I'm sure y'all can like understand what I'm talking about, but I'm like this has happened to me before. And I'm trying to think of like a good example of it, but I'm drawing a blank right now because I just like expended all of my energy and thought processes in reading all reading so much of Beowulf. Um yeah, that was a fun that was a weird that was a fun experience to do that. It's been a minute since I've actually like really sat down and read anything, like ever since I had my brain accident, and all the stuff that happened to me. I've had to like really like it's been such a grind, such a slog to recovery. I mean, honestly, the hero's journey, the ups and downs, you know, and pitfalls of the hero. This is what I've experienced. Those moments when you're beaten, bruised, and broken, and you still crawl on and get back on, get crawl up, get on your knees, stand on your feet, and though you may be stripped of your mail and armaments, the soul, the spirit burns on and carries on. And that's that's where I'm at in the story right now. The fall and then redemption of the hero, which that is a narrative, that's storytelling. I don't know how apt that is to real life, but it may be a mindset thing, like I don't know. You know what I mean? Like the way everything is set up these days, and has been for the longest time for everybody. It's a system in which you're expected to really like keep your nose clean and do it and do everything. Not there's wiggle room to make mistakes here and there, but you're definitely expected to adhere by a certain set of rules and social mores and standards, and just play it safe, get a decent job, save some money, own things, start a family, own more things, send your kids to college, save up tons and tons of money, and then like eventually get to a point where you can stop working. Like there's this it's always been disheartening to me, and I'm speaking from a place of just like maybe stupidity or stubbornness, but that path has always been like very disheartening to me, because it's so linear, and it's such just like a map for everybody to follow. And I think like any instance in which that you go all, you go into uncharted territory, or the idea of even doing so is just terrifying to people, to not have the stability of this like linear, safe, stable path in life um that's been mapped out for us, like the parameters in which we're supposed to like live our lives. And I'm not like denigrating or condemning anyone that wants to live that way. It's pretty nice to have food in your belly and a roof over your head and be safe and not have like debtors and creditors calling you all the time, and just having to like scrape and struggle to survive. But I mean, the life, life doesn't go that way for everybody. Like it just can't. There's too many people and too many variables for everybody to be able to follow like any sort of like to follow this like stable, straight and narrow path in which, well, you save this amount of money from each paycheck, and then, eventually you pay off all your bills and you retire. Some people are going to absolutely uh lose everything at some point, and that's where one must reach deep within and answer the call of the hero, and get on their feet, pick themselves up, and keep fighting, and slay the dragon, as it were, to pick up whatever you got, your remnants, the remnants of what once was, and keep pushing forward, and maybe even do something greater than you ever would have done before. Who knows? They want to beat that out of you. I mean, that's the thing about like reading literature like this, like Beowulf and all this kind of stuff. It's like fantasy, and it's, good guys and bad guys and kingdoms and swords and heroes and all that kind of stuff. And it's presented as like it's definitely fiction, it's fantasy, but life definitely beats it out of you. Any idea that that's a that might actually be a blueprint for your life, or some sort of like lens through which to like look at your life as a narrative, almost. Like, does that, you know what I mean? Like if you think of your own life in a sort of like narrative structure, and like contextualize it in that way, it affords you, I guess, like the way I think about things is just like the mindset of like a storyteller or a writer, of someone who's like read all these kinds of things, and just thinking of my own life in this like narrative structure, that it can be this sort of like hero's journey, and like Luke Skywalker's got to go into the cave in Dagobah and face the darkness, as we all must at some point in our lives. And a lot of people just don't contextualize their lives in that way, I don't think, or they're discouraged from doing so. uh because they want you to buy the stories, they want you to buy the ticket and go, engage in the commerce of it all. But on a real level, what is expected of you is to not think in like the ways of as a child would, because this is how children think. And at some point, somewhere along the way, that just gets beaten out of us. Like, grow the fuck up, and stop like daydreaming and looking at your life as like a fucking, Lord of the Rings movie, or whatever it may be. And it's unfortunate because the unfortunate thing is that I've met people who do live that way, who do think that way, who are all into like fantasy stuff, and like really do possess that sort of childlike wonder about things. And they are obnoxious, they got a lot of Funko Pops and memorabilia for stuff, and they're always like quoting like their favorite Doctor Who monologues, and all that kind of stuff. They wear, a fat librarian who wears cat ears, that kind of person. That does suck. But I've known those people in my life. Wonderful people, very nice. When it comes down to it, some of the kindest people I've ever met, just kind of annoying, when you get right down to it. But I mean, is that so bad? Because I've met people who are not annoying, who are hilarious, engage, like really interesting people, sociopaths, absolute scumbags. I would not want to associate with them, in any way necessarily beyond just enjoying their work and like appreciating the artistry of what they do, whatever it may be. But I wouldn't want to be close to a person like that. Fat librarian who wears cat ears, who's read like all the Discworld novels, you know, and who's just kind of annoying about that kind of thing. I could be close to that, but I could be nice to that person. I would probably get along with them. Well, I like Discworld. Um, you know, I like Terry Pratchett. Uh damn. I know you know what I mean. And I think it can be healthy if you're just like whatever you're going through in life. The way I sort of just think about things sometimes is I try to like think of my life in terms of like narrative structure, like it's this story. The rest is still unwritten. Feel the rain on your skin. No one else can feel it for But yeah, that's sort of how I contextualize things sometimes. Is I just put it into this like narrative structure in my mind, like it's um, I guess like Alan Wake. Isn't that the plot of Alan Wake? Is like he's writing a story that is the story that's taking place around him or something. That old, or maybe like that old Twilight Zone episode, Magic Typewriter. Guy's writing a story, and it ends up being like real stuff happening in his own life, and then at the end he ends up like killing Rod Serling. It's like the one of the few times, maybe the only time, that a character in the show in like interacted with Rod Serling. Um, and at the end of the episode, the guy with the magic typewriter writes Rod Serling out of the episode. Uh, anyway, that's what I'm talking about though. Magic typewriter brain. Just thinking of life in terms of like narrative structure, and it's this thing that I'm like writing as it happens. Because it's just that's just like something I understand is storytelling. I'm not like smart or necessarily even good at it, but I do understand it well enough that that's how I can like just make sense of my own life. Maybe other people are different. Maybe people who are like really good at math and coding and stuff like that think of life in terms of like I don't know, differential equations and charts and formulas and lines of code and Python and stuff like that. And then chemists and biologists and biochemists contextualize everything uh from a like a scientific standpoint. They think of it in terms of evolution and chemical reactions and reaction mechanisms and stereochemistry and Heisenberg uncertainty principle, whatever you learn studying science. But I'm a man of letters, so that's how I think about things. And what do they call this? They call it main character syndrome, I suppose, if you think of yourself as the main character in life or of your own story. I mean, that's where I really hate the internet, when they just come up with some goofy names and diagnoses for just being a fucking human. You know what I mean? Where it's like main character, you like, well, I mean, who wouldn't be the main character of their own fucking story? Like I understand like allowing for the other people in the world to live their lives. Like I know I'm not the only person that exists. It doesn't revolve around me, but I am mostly thinking of myself. Like most of the time, because it's my brain in this body, and I'm inhabiting this all of this, and I got to live with this, and this is how I interact with the world. I am mostly thinking about this myself, and how do I navigate the world as me. But that doesn't mean that I think everything revolves around me, or that I have cast aside everyone else to only look after myself as I go about my life. But I am focused on me. You know what I mean? So I don't know, is that main character syndrome, or is that just being a fucking human being? you know? I think about other people too. I want to do good things for other people and help them, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, I'm the main character of this story for sure. And that's how I'm thinking of. I'm the hero of this. Um and that's one way to look at a lot of stories. There's all kinds of different secondary and tertiary characters. That would actually be like a fun thing to like try, or like if one were so inclined to write like fan fiction, is just to pick out some like like tertiary character from a story and come up with whatever that guy's story is, like take out just one of the clarinet players from the Mos Eisley Cantina in Star Wars and write a story about that guy, like growing up as whatever the fuck kind of alien he is on his planet, and always loving music and begging his alien parents to buy him one of those fucked up clarinets, pay for lessons, play the fucked up alien clarinet in school, um, telling his dad he's gonna go to space college for the fucked up clarinet, and his dad is like, no, this is a family of moisture farmers. You should be lucky I've even allowed you to engage in this hobby in any way, but you're not. I'll be fucking goddamned if my alien son is gonna try and go out there and make his hobby his career. That's a great way to be poor forever. And then his alien mom is like, honey, you, don't do this to our son. Let the boy follow his dreams. This family is just struggled and suffered as moisture farmers here on Tatooine, and why not, she says. So the alien boy gets to go to space college for the fucked up clarinet, and he works as whiplash style. He's busting his ass, getting screamed at by some like alien music instructor for whatever music they're playing, and he's really hoping to make it into some big intergalactic orchestra playing the fucked up alien clarinet. And it just never works out it never works out the way he wants it to. He's trying, he's auditioning, he's got chops, but he just is not as great as he wants to be or thinks he is. And gets rejected from every big intergalactic orchestra. And eventually goes back home to he's living with his parents, and then he sees an ad attached to the bulletin board at the Mos Eisley Cantina that the Cantina band is looking for a fucked up clarinet player. And he says to himself, self, this is my home, this is where I'm from. I'm good at the fucked up clarinet. I may not be intergalactic orchestra good, but I'm sure as shit good enough to play in this Mos Eisley Cantina band. And so he auditions. That band has never heard a fucked up clarinet player as good as this guy. He's in, and it's a regular gig every night. They're in there, bum 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 bum. And you know what? It's not the career he had dreamed of. It's not what he went to school for. His dad is still kind of upset. But he's found a sense of meaning and happiness after feeling as though he's failed in life, and he's still young. and he's playing with a fun band. There's camaraderie. They all get drinks after the night's performances. The alien women at the cantina love him, and he's living a nice humble life as a small town fucked up clarinet player at the Mos Eisley Cantina. After this epic journey of going to space college and auditioning and crying, getting rejected, getting his heart broke. I'm putting the skeleton of this together right now. I'd have to fill in all the details, but you get the idea of what I'm doing. Taking just like some random character from something and then positioning them as the hero of their own story. Like what would be the extended universe, story about just like this character. And it shows that everybody, if you follow their story, has main character syndrome, I suppose. And by the way, the story I just bullshitted my way through, that little outline I just came up with, is better than anything Star Wars has done since Revenge of the Sith. I guarantee you that the bare bones of that story that I just came up with about the fucked up clarinet player at the Mos Eisley Cantina who went to space college and got screamed at by alien J.K. Simmons, that's a much more interesting and character-driven story than any of the fucking bullshit that Disney has done with that franchise. Anyway, that's it. This was Lost in the Maze 15.3. This is sort of an addendum to episode 15 that I just did, where I'm reading Beowulf. Next week, let's see if we can finish Beowulf. I don't know. It's tough to read that much all in one sitting. It really hurt my vocal cords, and there were times I was trying to do voices, and I was dipping in and out of them, and I felt kind of silly at times, and it also kind of hurt my throat to try and do them. But it was fun. I like reading things. I like reading out loud. That'd be a cool job. Reading audiobooks. Damn, what a dream job. Just going into a booth, just in like pajamas or whatever, just having a good ass voice. And just being like, what are we reading? Hunger Games? All right. Probably should have got a lady for this, but I'll read it. Anyway, thank you, everybody. This was Lost in the Maze 15.3, the solo show only on the Billionaire Podcast Network. Ka-ching, bing, 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 did filler up, a subsidiary of Corn Fed Industries. Thank you. I love you. Bye.
After you've gone and left me crying, after you've gone, there's no denying. You seem blue, you feel sad, Mr. Never. There'll come a time, now don't forget it, baby. There'll come a time when you regret it. Someday, when you grow lonely, your heart will break like mine. You want me only after you've gone. Oh, there's